Yo, what is up, guys? XRP is at $1.10 right now on CoinMarketCap. Our first tweet comes from Bank XRP. I remember December 2020 like it was yesterday. SEC sues Ripple. Exchanges start delisting XRP overnight. Coinbase one by one, others follow. XRP is done. It's over. Sell before it goes to zero. Ripple's finished. The SEC just killed it. For almost 2 years, that was the narrative. XRP trading in the shadows on offshore exchanges while everyone else moved on. Fast forward to now, case resolved, Ripple's US business fully back, licenses secured across multiple jurisdictions, institutional partnerships stacking up globally, banks actually building on the tech, not just talking about it. The same dead project people wrote off in 2020 is now sitting at the center of institutional adoption. Bear markets and lawsuits don't kill real conviction, they just test who actually understood the thesis in the first place. If you held through that, you already know. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Wow, Senator Kevin Cramer eyes August 7th deadline to pass Clarity Act. Let's watch this video.
A couple of other things that I know you're familiar with.
Well, we thought, it was easy to pass housing, right? I mean, we thought it was easy to pass the Clarity Act. What about the Clarity Act missing its proposed July 4th deadline? It passed the House almost a year ago. It's been held up in the Senate as well, Senator. Is that going to pass soon? We just spoke with the head of the CFTC, and he says we're close to the finish line, but it feels like deja vu again on that.
Well, it does. The Clarity Act is a little, we did pass it out of the committee, as you know, out of the banking committee with Democratic votes. But even the Democrats that voted for it in committee won't vote for it on the floor unless a couple of things are straightened out. One of them being some of the ethics language, which I think, by the way, Democrats are insisting on simply because Donald Trump's the president and because he's successful at business, which is bizarre to me. I mean, if we punished every president who was successful at something and said they can't legislate, if they're a farmer like Jimmy Carter, they can't sign a farm bill. I mean, Hoover was in the mining business, for crying out loud. There are lots of potential conflicts, but it's all about Donald Trump in this case. I think there are a couple of those things. That's something that the White House is going to have to work out with Democrats, quite honestly. It's between them. And if the CFTC commissioner chair thinks that we're close, it may be something. There may be something that we know that he knows that we don't know. So I'm still hopeful for clarity. The good thing about clarity, Maria, is both sides do want to do it. They do want to have good legislation along the issue, obviously, of cryptocurrency, and we need to.
Smash that subscribe button and hit that like button if you believe XRP will reach $3 again this year. Our next tweet comes from Ripple Zitty. Just in, we almost decided to shut down the company when the SEC sued us, says Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse. Our next tweet comes from Ripple XRP. It's official. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that there will be no central bank digital currencies (CBDC) under President Trump. The Clarity Act is coming. Let's watch this video.
Digital currency. A lot of our viewers are increasingly worried that digital currency could one day be used to track people's spending or limit personal freedom. What's your philosophy on that, and what safeguards is the Treasury and this administration putting in place to make sure new digital payment systems protect Americans' privacy and freedoms in the future?
Well, so this administration has been very clear. There will be no central bank digital currency, which I think would be the first step toward tracking. So we have taken that off the table. We've passed stablecoin legislation with bipartisan, and the Clarity Act is now up on the hill, and I think it has bipartisan support. And the most important thing we can do is to make digital assets come into the United States, make the U.S. the home. Our regulation, our best practices are what will ensure good standards for these. When you look at digital assets, all the nonsense that happens, all the things you read about, that's because it's the wild, wild west offshore, so we got to bring it on shore. So I would encourage the House and the Senate to get clarity done. Jack?
Our next tweet comes from the Crypto Squire. XRP ETF activity. A 21 shares XRP ETF TOXR investor added $107,400 worth of XRP yesterday. Institutional participation keeps expanding. XRP keeps attracting attention. Our next tweet comes from Zave Crypto. Ripple CEO just explained why. XRP exists in under 2 minutes, no jargon. Venmo can't send to PayPal even though PayPal owns Venmo. That's how broken our payments networks are. Now scale that to sending money overseas, slow, expensive, and it can vanish for weeks. Ripple's fix, sell the tech to banks worldwide, 4-second settlement, fractions of a penny anywhere on Earth. Customers don't care it runs on XRP, they just care that it works. Let's watch this video.
Ripple started was to solve a simple problem, and that is moving money. And today we've all had experience, not too many people write checks, not too many people do those things anymore. If everybody were on Venmo, wow, that would be easy, right? Well, not everybody's on Venmo. There's a whole bunch of different networks. And the way I think about this, because I'm doing a quick survey of the audience, there's some people more my age than my son's age. You know, back when the internet was getting started, you had CompuServe, you had Prodigy, you had AOL. You know, you couldn't send an email from Prodigy to AOL. You could only communicate within a closed network. Our payment networks are the same thing. Venmo is a closed network. Until very recently, you couldn't move money from Venmo to PayPal, and PayPal owns Venmo. Like, that doesn't make sense. But it's because of how our payment networks are configured. The highest friction is sending money overseas. Now, either from a professional point of view or a personal point of view, if you've ever had the unfortunate need to send money overseas, it is painful, it is expensive, it is slow, and mistakes happen and it gets lost for 2 weeks and you have to go track down. Rarely do you ever lose your money, but it's really frustrating. And what I used to say is, in a world where you literally can stream video from the space station, how can you not move your own money from A to B in a simple, reliable way? Ripple went out to solve that problem. And in our technology, by the way, everything I've said, you'll notice, I didn't say crypto. I didn't say XRP. Like, consumers don't understand how it impacts them, customers. And does anybody here really care if it went through XRP to solve that problem? You don't care. But what you do care about is, was it fast? An XRP transaction is about 4 seconds anywhere in the world. Is it cheap? It's fractions of a penny to move that money.
Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Remember when U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, 2025 was setting the table, the feast and the banquet will be in 2026. It's happening in 2026. Let's watch this video.
I would categorize 2025. We had some important victories, some important policy announcements, some important movement, but as I've described it, 2025 was setting the table, and especially on the economy, I think the feast and the banquet's going to be in 2026.
Our next tweet comes from Ripple Zitty. Just in, tokenized gold XAUA is now live on the XRP ledger. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Ripple CEO, you have trillions of dollars flowing cross-border globally. It is still largely dominated by the SWIFT network. That's technology architecture is developed 50 years ago. There's an opportunity to modernize. XRP, let's watch this video.
Markets like Japan, I think, are still unlocking. The market opportunity here is massive. You have trillions of dollars flowing cross-border globally. It's still largely dominated by the SWIFT network, if you will. And that's architecture, that's a technology architecture that's developed 50 years ago. There's an opportunity to modernize. That takes time, particularly when you have a government in the U.S. kind of combating that innovation. But that's changing now. The Trump effect, if you will, is profound. You're seeing that in asset prices, but you're also going to see that in the adoption of these technologies.
Yeah, and I think, so when you're looking at the growth story then of Ripple, does it still come from overseas, or are you expecting a change in terms of domestic interest in Ripple?
Well, we're definitely already seeing a change in the domestic interest. The 6 weeks after President Trump was elected, we signed more deals in the United States than we had in the previous 6 months. So these are very innovative technologies. I think they're going to play out over 10, even 20 years in terms of how they integrate and rewire the financial infrastructure of the United States. That's across payments. That's across even the settlement of maybe real estate transactions, securities transactions. So I think we're going to see this play out over a long arc. But the United States is finally unlocked, and I think people are underestimating how big that change is, and you'll see that continue to play out this year.
Yeah.
Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. Ripple has been aligned with ISO 20022 from the very beginning. Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. Ripple's Pega Sultani. We've been aligned with ISO 20022 from day one, and we're among the first to adopt it. Listen closely. Let's watch this video.
High care. In today's payment world, the standards are really different around the world. So if you're using the SWIFT system or TIPS in Europe or Fed in US, you follow a different protocol. In addition, the data that you can transfer, the richness of that data is really limited. So what you get is a bunch of closed networks that don't speak to each other, and unstructured data that's opaque. So there's a lot of manual intervention and ultimately a really poor payment experience. With ISO 20022, these problems will be solved. So ISO 20022 is a global standard for financial information exchange. This enables interoperability between different systems, straight through processing of payments, and rich data transfer. And it'll also foster competition because it's open and flexible. At Ripple, we've been aligned with ISO 20022 from day one. We've always recognized that this is the direction of payments and it'll be better for everyone. And we were really a first mover on that front. We've also joined the standard body to help contribute to how payments will shape in the future. Going back to your point around security, Ripple's also really committed to the highest standards in safety, privacy, and security. And a testament to this is that we have our SOC 2 certification. For those not very familiar with SOC 2 reports give really valuable information about an organization's security capabilities, so each of their customers and users can have confidence in that service, which means that anyone using Ripple's solution knows that we adhere to the most modern security and privacy standards. And in line with that, we've also received our SOC 2 Type 2 report. So not only do we have the policies and processes in place around various criteria related to security, availability, and the integrity of the system, but also that we've been doing so consistently for a period of time.
Real quick, if this helped, press the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to people who want the truth, not hype. And press the subscribe button if you're done being sold the moon. I've already got your next one right here. Go!